Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Manning Publications. If you use the discount code YTFisher at checkout, you'll get 40% off my Docker in Motion course. It is 5.5 hours long and it teaches the fundamentals of Docker. Go to howtocodewell.net/Docker in Motion to get my course or other video courses and books from Manning Publications. Link in the description below. Hello coders and welcome to another How to Code Well podcast. Today we're going to be talking about WordPress development. I'm joined by a joint director at Maple Rock Design, Richard Bell. Hi Richard, how's it going? Have you had a good week?
Not too bad. Very well, thanks. Very early in the week to say that yet, but
it is.
Let's see what happens.
It is. You.
Okay, so far.
Yeah, okay so far. So yes, so I record this on a Monday, but I send it out on a Friday.
so fantastic. I've had a fantastic
great week.
Let's be optimistic, shall we?
How was your weekend? Was it good?
Yeah, good. Not bad.
Awesome. Good. So we're going to be talking about WordPress development. You're the joint director at Maple Rock Design in Cheltenham. But before we get into the weeds on that one, let's talk about your background. How did you get into coding?
A funny one earlier, because you sent me a few guide questions earlier, and I was thinking, let's write a little timeline of where I got started. So I started in 1999, so some 20 years ago.
Wow.
My dad, when computers were about £1,000, something like that, and we were just kind of getting them at school. And my dad said, my parents gave me the option of, do you want to go on holiday this year or get a computer? And there's me and my sister, computer. And then kind of the internet was in its early phases, really. So, and then we got the internet, and then I was quite into drag racing at the time.
Oh.
So there's a website called Eurodragster.com that's still, if you go visit, it's really interesting. It's still using the same kind of old style table layout from 1999, basically. It's exactly the same technology. So that's kind of throwback, and quite interested in that. And I thought, I'll build my own website. So I kind of started learning with Dreamweaver, really. And it's all I've ever known, because I think one of your other questions is, what did you do before coding? I don't know anything else really in terms of work-wise, because I was at school at the time. So that's kind of year 9, 10 at school.
Right.
And then kind of year 11, you do your GCSEs in the UK. I don't know if you've got an international kind of listener base, have you? Or,
yes.
So yeah, I did my GCSEs, and then it was kind of, where do I go from here?
Right.
And then it was kind of, okay, I'm into websites and things like that, and I'm quite into computers, not so much kind of the building of them. But I decided to do IT at college. Yeah. So kind of went to college, did 2 years of kind of, I think it's BTech and computing and IT. So there's a bit of business, bit of everything, a bit of an assembly language as I remember it.
Oh, wow.
A bit of binary math, all that kind of stuff.
Hardcore stuff.
So it's always been kind of in the background, but I've always been more into the kind of website side of things, really.
Right.
So did college, all along kind of teaching myself bits on the side, kind of traditional ASAP stuff. I can't remember what sort of stuff I used to build. I built like a DJ booking system back in the day. An old ASP. I've still got it on CD somewhere.
Brilliant.
I keep needing to dig it out.
Yeah.
And then I did a HND, so kind of progressed from college to do a HND, same sort of thing.
So that's a higher national diploma, right?
Yes, my national diploma, which is kind of 1 year short of the degree. And I did 2 years of that, and built some more bits and pieces on the side. Didn't really know much, I guess, mainly kind of HTML and ASAP. I wasn't really doing much CSS at that point.
Sure.
And then I just got a bit bored of education, really.
Right.
So there was the option at the end of the second year to extend it to a full degree. I just got bored of education. I just thought, I can't bother anymore. Quite like teaching myself, and then kind of finished at 2 years, got my HND, and then just worked in a garage for a year.
Right.
On pump 5, pump 6.
Okay.
So kind of in the mornings I would kind of work at home of kind of trying to freelance a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
Kind of doing a bit of web dev and kind of tinkering, really, nothing serious. And then kind of web development, I don't know, I wanted to get into it, really. And then after about a year working at the garage. It was because I lived kind of in the countryside in the UK, you know what I mean? There's not many kind of tech companies going around. So it was either kind of Birmingham or Bristol that I needed to kind of venture out to. And then luckily I got a job in an agency in Cheltenham, and then been there ever since, really. So
brilliant.
It's kind of a potted history, I guess. To kind of, where are we now? That was 2006.
2006.
So that was then when I first started in the industry, because I split it out into kind of tinkering for myself and then learning on the job kind of thing.
Sure.
Because you always get that question of, do you need to go to uni, don't you? And I always feel like after 2006, that's when I started to learn web development, I guess, more than, because I knew the basics of like the fundamentals of coding. But it's after that you kind of start learning more about the web development industry and kind of keeping up with technologies and things like that. So
you say you did some ASP. What was the shift between that and PHP? When did you go, actually, I'm going to go for PHP?
That was literally one of the kind of decisions from starting in the industry, basically. The company that I started to work for I think they were predominantly Joomla developers. So they kind of, like I say, I kind of knew, when I started, I was very kind of table-based layouts, that sort of thing. That's what I knew. And they were just starting to do kind of float layouts and that sort of thing, CSS-wise. So that's where I started to learn that sort of thing. And then they weren't using ASP, really. So it was just kind of what I learned at college, really, to then learn PHP. I'm still learning to this stage, you know what I mean? I'm still not very polished, but
with ASP and stuff, you have to learn, if statements and control flows and how things hang together in a programmy way. You can transfer those skills and knowledge over to PHP, no problem.
It was all very procedural based as well. I wasn't very OOP in those days.
Back then,
kind of just chucking stuff at the top of the files, you know what I mean? And it's all part of the learning curve, really. But So my industry bit's a bit different, but we'll get into that in a while, I guess.
So you were you comfortable dropping ASP? Is that or were you?
I think I don't know. It was a lot. Like I said, a long time ago. It's about 10 years ago. And I don't think it was very much my decision, because I was working in the industry at the time, and it was more we were using PHP, kind of Joomla. Then you'll have to learn. I can't even remember when I first kind of picked it up. It's just kind of come along with me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then kind of built on it as I've gone, really.
And was Joomla your first exposure to sort of content management?
Yeah, I think my first exposure to content management was WordPress.
Right. Okay.
So it's a good little story. When I was kind of working at the garage, I took on some work for I think it was like a music industry. I can't remember, was it a record label? Like it was do you remember Lamar, the singer? He won the Fame Academy. And in those days, you could all the artists had forums.
Right.
And I became kind of a moderator on a few forums, and then got some work through like the record agency that was doing the website. And I can't remember where I'm going with this story. What was the story? I forgot. I've gone off on one.
It was the transition to PHP, and whether the Joomla was the first exposure.
Oh, my first exposure to that was it. They asked, can you use WordPress? I was like, yeah, I can use WordPress. Well, it was one of those little lies, and I ended up kind of just going into the core and editing the core and taking down the whole website.
Dear.
Like, I don't know what. It's just a file. You just change the file. So that was my first experience of WordPress. But I've come a long way from there, hopefully.
Yeah. Let's just disclaimer that, caveat that. Yeah, you've come along. Let's just remind everyone again at the date that was. That was about 20 years ago.
2006.
2006. There we go.
That was my first exposure to kind of a content management system. Brilliant. But and then I kind of learned at the first agency by building themes. They're not called themes. I can't remember what they're called. It's my WordPress coming out. I can't remember, like templates, aren't they, for Joomla?
Yeah.
and then kind of just learning, picking apart kind of plugins, now called plugins. I can't remember the terminology of Joomla, but
Joomla's a weird one, isn't it?
Really.
Yeah. Excellent. And I guess that gave you a knowledge of how things hang together in a content management kind of thing, like, assets, how to upload those and how to structure pages and whatnot. So with WordPress, what was the desire to continue on with WordPress? I mean, we're talking from 2006. It's progressed tremendously since then. Have you always
kind of from
been
2006?
Yeah.
I didn't really. I was predominantly probably Joomla based. I didn't really touch. So I touched it a little bit,
right?
And then the agency that I worked at was Joomla, and then that's all I kind of knew.
Okay.
So I was very, very much Joomla based until about 2013, something like that.
Okay.
When it kind of came, when it was always getting hacked, when it had its kind of 1.5, where it was everything that you did to it, it was just horrendous to work with, and I just made the decision where I am now, just to get rid of it and find something just that was speedy to kind of develop with, but less risky in terms of security. So I think I've got one site left now on Joomla that I'm trying to get rid of. So
yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
And what was the decision to go to WordPress from Joomla? Was it again because the agency that you were at wanted to use WordPress?
That was my decision. As a Maple Rock decision, it was, I'm not happy with Joomla, and I never really, it was okay. I understood how it worked, but it was never really, it was just what I learned kind of as a junior dev coming up. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So once I could make my own decisions, it was kind of, right, let's use WordPress. But
brilliant. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Maple Rock for a second. What was the decision to start Maple Rock?
So that's it's a funny story. I've kind of come a long way, but a sad story as well, really. So 2000, if we'll stay on the timeline, keep it simple. So I stayed at this agency in Cheltenham until about 2009. No, 2008. Sorry, 2008.
Okay.
And then moved to another agency in Cheltenham for about 9 months, something like that. More kind of doing the same sort of thing, Joomla sites, CSS front end builds. And it was kind of during the recession, and they were going quiet, and they had two devs. And at the time, the managing director of the company I was at was friends with another design company called Maple Rock.
Okay.
And they're the kind of traditional print designers, basically, who were looking to go into web development.
Right.
So Steve and Steve, I kind of had a transfer, like a mutual transfer, free transfer across, basically, from the other agency to Maple Rock. So the plan was, this was 2009 in October 2009. October 2009, I started at Maple Rock, and it was a small company run by a guy called Steve and his wife Claire, and Karen was there at the time. And unexpectedly, kind of October the following year, November, he passed away unexpectedly. So kind of that was quite tough to take. So I didn't really know what was going to happen, really.
Right.
At the same time, so Karen was the kind of design lead with Steve at the time, and Claire kind of did the accounts and kind of the admin side of things. Yeah. And at the same time, Karen was going on maternity leave.
Right.
So Steve died. Karen was going on maternity leave in January, which left me to pick up kind of three people's work.
Right.
Two people's work, and Claire, obviously, whose husband has just passed away. So it's a kind of, I don't think either of us knew what we were doing.
Right.
But we just kind of felt our way around, really. Claire took on the running of the company. And then we just kind of, I don't know how we did it, really, looking back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We kind of kept it afloat between myself and Claire. Kind of, I was kind of doing the kind of the web. I had to kind of learn how to do a bit of InDesign, I've always been into kind of the print side of things,
right?
Because we had the two kind of types of clients, so it was kind of baptism of fire to kind of learn a bit of design stuff to kind of keep the wolf from the doors. You know what I mean? And then Karen came back from maternity at the end of the year, and then Claire ran the company until 2016.
Okay.
And from my point of view, it got to a point where I wanted to do my own thing. So my options were go and do my own thing, or take Maple Rock as it was and see if I could do something with it. So luckily enough, we were now able to kind of get the funds together to buy the company off Claire. Okay. So although Maple Rock's been going since 2013. 2003, sorry, Steve started that.
Right.
So we're lucky enough to kind of take the clients with us.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to go off and do my own thing, it would have been the whole, I don't know, it wouldn't have been a very nice move, Claire, do you know what I mean? I think this was the best way for everybody. So yeah, just kind of from Maple Rock's been, so I've jointly owned Maple Rock since 2016.
What an interesting past.
So that's kind of it's a very interesting past. So that quite lucky in a way, I think, but not it's not a nice story, but lucky for me in a way. But
it was a very gutsy decision that you made to take it on. Because I mean that's
I don't think it. I think it was kind of a lot in the early days to have kind of 2010, 2011 when he died. I don't really know what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? So I also lost my mum in the same year, so it was quite a tough year.
Crikey.
So I was kind of floating around, not knowing what I wanted really.
Wow.
And then well, I don't know. A lot of it was like an emotional attachment to the business as well. It was, I wanted to keep it going, but
so you had you felt very loyal to it, and you didn't want, you wanted to see it
kind of like the clients, and I wanted to carry that on. Do you know what I mean?
Wonderful.
But now it's kind of like it's been a blank canvas since 2016, but kind of trying to make it our own is the thing where we're at now. So
put your own stamp on it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's kind of the Maple Rock story. It's a bit of a long, sad story, but it's funny how life pans out like that way.
So you say it's design, print design, and web development. Is that the primary focus?
So Karen's kind of traditional kind of print design, but also does a bit of web design. She's also kind of trying to learn a bit of development bits. So she's just kind of starting on the HTML and CSS bits and pieces. Yeah. And then I kind of head up the development side of things, but kind of do a little bit of design print stuff as needed, really. So
is this like logos, banners, brochures, all that?
Yeah, that sort of thing. All the kind of traditional exhibition design, anything you can think of, really. And then on top of that, we've kind of got the web development side of things.
Excellent. And is your client base centered in Cheltenham, or do you look further afield?
Not further afield, mainly Cheltenham, kind of Gloucestershire. Yeah. Not too far away, fairly local, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And what kind of industries do you focus on?
Nothing in particular, really. Don't really tie ourselves down to say we are this or that. Whatever comes to our door, really, we'll kind of take it on a see what happens approach.
Cool. Excellent. Well, you said you were able to take on the previous clients. Is there? Do you have any strategy of getting new clients on? Do you go to network meetings or what have you?
We've done a little bit of networking, not very successfully. I think it depends what type of person you are. I'm not really a networker. Google seems to work quite well for us. Mm-hmm. Word of mouth. And kind of, I think the best thing we found is side projects. So we did a Cheltenham infographic some years ago. We've also done a Cheltenham pub guide. So that was quite a cool little, we did it as a printed, I don't know if you've seen it around, it's like a printed map of Cheltenham, but it's also a little online website that we made.
Excellent.
So that was my first kind of introduction to Vue.
Right.
I built a kind of a Cheltenham pub guide. I can't remember Cheltenham pub. If you Google Cheltenham pub guide, it should come up first result.
Sure.
That's quite an interesting one, just to get a bit of interest, really.
Yeah.
So these are the four main ways, really. Yeah.
Excellent. So you just mentioned Vue.js. Is there any other technologies that you play with apart from Vue and WordPress?
So I do quite a lot of stuff in Laravel. So kind of WordPress, Laravel, Vue.js, I guess. Yeah. And then anything else that comes. I've done a little bit touched on a site with Craft, built a site in Craft before, quite like that. And I've recently started I've got a couple of old code Ignitor sites that I thought, I'll build a content management system for this. And it's for people that kind of don't really update their sites very often.
Right.
So I've just moved one across to a static site with, is it 11T? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
11T. 11T, is that right? I don't know. Yeah. But I've just kind of took the template from CodeIgniter, dumped it in, and it's been quite smooth. A couple of hours work, and get rid of some old code base. That's quite cool.
Yeah. Good.
A personal site with that as well. So I'm enjoying using that at the moment.
Wonderful. So in terms of WordPress, because I know that you've got most of the dev work in WordPress because of would you say you're a WordPress shop? Is that would you say that you
not really? I don't like to. I would take a brief and see what people want. I wouldn't say we'll build this in WordPress. We'll build this in. I would take this is what you need. Good example is a lady wanted an art website for her. She just wanted to put some pictures of her art pieces. How much they cost, no e-commerce. So there's lots of options really, but I'm thinking maybe a static site might work for her depending on how often she wants to update it. So I wouldn't say we're a WordPress shop, but it's it depends what you want. So we've got kind of the WordPress kind of brochure sites, which I think the market for that's kind of dying a little bit.
Okay.
And then we've got 2-3 custom Laravel builds, which I say Laravel builds, but they're more kind of, the background is kind of taking kind of an access system and their website and building it into something that they can use as more as a portal for their kind of day-to-day running of their business. So that's kind of where I kind of sit, I guess, in terms of, that's where I like kind of taking people's data and working out, actually, we can build a better database for this and something better that works better.
Excellent. That's a really good answer there. You choose the tool that it best suits the job. I
try to. I wouldn't say. I think a lot of places you go, no, we only use WordPress, but I'd like to. So I've got a few there is one like a lady that does. I can't remember what she does, like business analyst or something. It's just a simple static single page site that she's got. And she's had that for a number of years, and I think that works for most people. But try to pick the right solution for each person's needs, really.
Sure. It's surprising how many sites do turn into static sites these days. It's like when a few years back everybody was after the most complicated solution, and yet now we're actually going back to the retro static stuff,
full reversal, but a lot better in terms of a lot speedier of kind of building and stuff like that.
It's kind of gone in a bit of a circle, which is nice. In terms of WordPress though, what would you say is the biggest strengths for WordPress at the moment?
At the moment is a difficult question, touchy subject for me.
Right.
If we're talking Gutenberg and all that kind of, so I just built my first site with Gutenberg, and I don't think it's quite there yet. Do you know, I think it needs a bit of polishing. I don't think it's far off, but I'm not sure. I think you still need to kind of know what you're doing. It's not really that intuitive from a client's perspective. In terms of strengths, I really one of the best things I think I've found is the community. Since I've kind of started going to the WordPress Cheltenham, which is where we met. I've also kind of done WordCamp Europe, WordCamp Bristol, Manchester, and everyone just seems really friendly, and everyone seems in the same boat, and you can kind of pick people's brains. So I think the community aspect's quite good with it. Well, I don't think it's going to go anywhere soon, is it?
No.
So there's always going to be the work out there. So yeah.
Do you have like a suite of plugins that you've developed and are able to like add to
Not necessarily. I use ACF quite a lot, Advanced Custom Fields.
Okay.
Ninja Forms are kind of my two main. That's all I need really, a form plugin and something that gives me kind of data out of the box. Apart from that, I try to kind of keep plugins to a minimum. So I'll try and kind of, so if I want a Google map, I might just write a little function in my functions file to do it instead of installing a plugin, or write a little bit of JavaScript to do a carousel instead of installing a slider plugin. It just depends what you want really. Because I found that most of our clients, although they say we want content management, they never ever do anything with it anyway. So you can get away with kind of, you don't need kind of bells and whistles of a plugin to do everything. So,
well, you made a great point there. The Google Map thing. I mean, how often does your office change location? Why are you going to put that in a content management system? You
have settings for it. It's not and even if kind of a client rings up and says, "Oh, can we change this?" It's quite a quick change. You know what I mean? It's not like you've got to kind of pull something apart. So it's just being, I don't know if that comes with experience, but it's just being clever about what technologies you use, I guess, and being selective of which I think one of your questions is what is the mistake a lot of WordPress. Well, you say developers because kind of if you go to the group, you've got users and developers, but then developers are the same. But I think installing plugins is or lots of plugins to do lots of jobs is a big issue, I think.
Right.
It's just so easy to do, isn't it? Just to go, I need a plugin to do this. Oh, I'll install it.
Plugin bloat.
Joe Blogs doesn't know what it's doing, and who knows?
So you would say that's the number one mistakes people make.
And then kind of not using a child theme as well. If you're kind of just using a theme and then kind of hacking your theme around, if something goes wrong, then it can cause lots of issues.
Is that because you can't revert back to the other one?
Well, it's kind of a child theme, you kind of inherit your main theme,
right? And
then you could just add to it. So you'd end up going back to it. You're not going to break anything, basically.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you start hacking your main theme, and it updates, then it could revert your changes back, and you could end up in a little bit of a mess.
So, do you have any advice for WordPress devs? Apart from don't put in too many plugins.
too many plugins. Use a child theme. And I guess again, so much of web development, I think it depends. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, really. It depends.
Fair enough. Okay, so what kind of sites do you build?
In what sort of sense?
Well, is it e-commerce sites? Is it brochure sites? Is it you mentioned static sites a bit.
So in terms of brochure sites, I guess we would go down the WordPress route. So if somebody said I've got this many pages, we'd go down the WordPress route, I would imagine. And then more complex builds, we'd kind of go for Laravel. Once you start getting into, I think, kind of business logic and things like that, and I always find there's a plugin that does this, it never does everything you want.
Yeah.
The same with this. Oh, I just want some images, like an image slider, for example. Just getting one of those just seems to be a royal pain to get something to do what you want, and especially in terms of like front end styling. I think it'd be really nice if you could just say, actually, no, I know what I'm doing. It kind of pulls in the images and does everything you want, but can I style it, please? But a lot of them don't. And I found recently as well, a lot of WordPress plugins are kind of monetized as well. So you think, oh, this does the job. And then you're like, oh, I want it to do this. And it's like, oh, you need the pro version. And you're like, oh, damn it. So a lot of the time I just end up kind of putting stuff together myself, like I've said before, just for ease, really.
So that, excuse me.
Sorry.
Wow. Just going to grab a drink.
I had that it was a meeting the other day. It's not good when it happens.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry.
Sorry?
It sounds all squeaky now. So is that like a paywall?
Yeah. So you it gives you the basic functionality.
That sound like Kermit the Frog. Yeah. So are you aware of that before you download the plugin?
You probably are, but I just kind of install stuff kind of locally just to see does this do what I want, and then kind of no, it's not what I want. They're going to want a pro version,
gotcha. Which
I guess works for some people, but it's just, I don't know, it's quite nice it's always nice to go back to the basics and build stuff yourself, isn't it?
Do you
which I'm a sucker for, but
yeah. We were talking about Gutenberg earlier. Do you think do you see that progressing and getting stronger and better?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's still very much early days. I think they rushed the release a little bit.
Right.
I think they could have spent a little bit more time kind of polishing it, but I think there was the controversy there. But I think the aim is for it to do kind of your menus and everything is the end goal.
Right. Okay.
I think there has just been an update, or soon to be an update, where a lot of the kind of better features of it should be coming. So that'd be interesting to see what that brings, really.
What areas do you think needed to be a little bit more polished?
I think it's just the user interface. Not so much the user interface. It's just feels a bit for a non-user, a bit difficult. So I was doing something with kind of columns before Christmas, and it just ends up being a bit clunky to work with and not very intuitive. But I guess it's always going to be, I don't know, I still don't think the web is kind of ready for kind of drag and drop. It's quite a difficult thing. So even, I don't know if you use MailChimp. MailChimp is the same. It's drag and drop, but it never seems to do what you want it to do. Do you know what? It's not nice.
Yeah, you can twist it, and you can get your browser into a bit of a tiz if you do things, or you drag things into the wrong thing, and then you find that you can't drag it out again, and you end up just refreshing the page.
Yeah, I've not come across anything on the web yet that does drag and drop well. I don't know if I'm looking in the wrong places, but I don't know if you know of anything. But do you know what I mean? It's just kind of to get stuff, especially if you're trying to build complex web layouts with drag and drop, still seems a bit a way off.
I've used a tool called Concrete5 before, and that has a bit of that. But again, it is still clunky. You're essentially you're trying to build a website in a website, and that and there's always going to be that element of having to drag something from somewhere, which means that you need something to sort of open and close in order to give you the options and the menus and stuff. So yeah, it's like a layer on top of what you're creating, and then everything I've done doesn't actually look how I wanted it to look. Like when I hit preview or publish, it doesn't end up the way I expect it to be.
That's my biggest, especially when you can understand that to get that to work, all you need to do is this, and then it's like there's no options for that. So you just, like I say, a lot of the time I just end up rebuilding stuff.
Well, yeah,
from scratch just to get it to look how I want it to look. Yeah,
because when you do use these drag and drop things, and then you view the source, you're thinking, well, why on earth is that all in there?
You don't need that.
You don't need that.
Like a div soup.
Yeah,
div soup.
Divots.
That's what you end up with. So it's not. Yeah, the source code for Gutenberg doesn't seem too bad. It's just kind of and the kind of tying up the styling again is kind of, that's where I struggled with the last build, is getting it to look in Gutenberg, especially when I started getting into the realms of custom blocks,
right? And
kind of getting those to look the same within the editor than they do in the front end was quite challenging, especially when you kind of got build tools kind of trying to build the CSS for the front end it's like, how do I get it into the back end style? So it's all a bit,
yeah. That sounds a little disjointed. Yeah. I can see how that could cause a bit of a headache. And there's so many different build tools out there. There's, take your pick, and they all do things slightly differently. Does WordPress does it use has it become opinionated on certain types of mechanisms, such as, I don't know, VueJs or?
No, I think Gutenberg's predominantly React. So
React, right.
I think at the moment it's still very much Backbone as it was before they went to React. So I don't know how that would work in terms of if you wanted to drop in a bit of Vue here and there, if that would work with React. I'm not sure if they play nicely together. I'm not really trying to try anything like that, but I think they're trying to kind of push the React thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And what's the upgrade path like between Gutenberg and the lower versions? Is it okay?
It seems well, I kind of took the approach of when Gutenberg landed. Was it last Christmas? I can't remember now. It might be 2 years ago now. Time flies too quickly for me. I installed, because you can still use the classic editor up to a certain date that I can't remember. So I kind of disabled what they're calling the block editor. They're calling it block editor. It's not Gutenberg now, is it? Block editor.
Right.
And then installed the classic editor for about 12 months. Interestingly, I said to a client wanted kind of a drag and drop layout, and I said, you need to use the block editor. She said, I've not got time for that. I like the classic editor. So I just left her with that. So
fair enough.
She made up her decision. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Richard. Is there anything you wish to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so, as long as I've covered off all your questions.
Yeah.
I think so. Haven't really touched on Laravel, but maybe we can do that as another episode.
We could do that another episode if you wish. Yeah.
If anyone's, it's not going to go out, but WordPress Cheltenham, if you're interested to come along.
Well, I'll tell you what. How can people reach you?
They can reach me on Twitter. So I'm Richard_Bell on Twitter, or just maplerockdesign.co.uk on the web. Apart from that, that's about where you'll find me, I think. Don't think I'm anywhere else.
And of course, as you've just mentioned, the WordPress Cheltenham user group as well.
That's been I've really enjoyed it. So that was started by Elliot Richmond a couple of years back now, and since joining that, I found quite a lot of friends through that. So I'm enjoying that. So I think it's the third Wednesday of every month. So we will have had the first one this year on Wednesday, but it's Friday today. So next one should be February if you're interested in coming. And that's on meetup.com and Cheltenham WordPress Meetup. If you have a look at that, or if you say reach out to me on Twitter, then I should be able to direct you in the right way.
Wonderful. I will leave links to those in the show notes below. There is one more question that I ask. This is a question that I ask everybody, and it's a slightly different question this time because we're in season 3. Question is, if you could spend time learning something that isn't coding, what would it be and why? It could be more than one.
There's a couple of things that I've kind of been trying to learn for the last couple of years. One of them is the guitar. I've got it here, actually.
Sweet.
Here it is.
Hey.
It just sits there, basically. And I play about 3 chords, and that's as far as I've got. And then it just sits looking at me most of the time. So I don't even want it to be good. I just want to be able to play a few bits and pieces, but it's not come to me. My hand-eye coordination's terrible. And I'm a bit cack-handed, so I don't know. Maybe I just need to practice that a bit more.
Yeah. Practice.
Do you play anything?
No. No, I don't have time for any of that.
Not interested in that. And the other thing, I at the start of last year, I just want to get into drawing. Sketching.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm not sure what sort of style, but just quite like the idea. My scale and proportion is awful.
Right.
So I do quite a bit of photography, kind of to keep my creative eye in. But in terms of, I don't know, just sketching visuals, and I'm just not very good at it. But practice, isn't it?
It's all practice. It's all practice at the end of the day. Yeah.
It's coming home and being bothered after a day at work as well, which is the tough thing. But
Well,
maybe at the end of the year I'll be able to play the guitar and draw, but who knows?
You'll have to come on and do a jingle.
Yeah, I might be asking too much.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much, Richard, for coming on. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And for everybody watching on the YouTubes and listening on the podcasts, happy coding, everyone. I'll see you again next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.